Treacherous times ahead as Central Arkansas anxiously waits to see what kind of precipitation we get, especially in places like Conway and that busy interchange right there.
It started as rain and picked up in intensity earlier this afternoon, and even though many knew to stay off the roads, those who had to drive are finding it slippery.
We here at THV 11 have you covered at 5. Our reporters are out in the storm right now getting the latest updates on road conditions, what electric companies are doing to make sure everyone's power stays on. Thank you for choosing THV 11 tonight. I'm Rolly Hoyt here with Faith Woodard.
And we're getting straight to it. Before we bring in our reporters, let's get the latest updates on those weather conditions with Chief Meteorologist Tom Brannon. Tom, what can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon. Yeah, the weather impact alert will continue tonight for the winter storm warning, and that is going to be a myriad of precipitation that we're going to see, including freezing rain. And that's been the predominant precipitation in central Arkansas, but we're beginning to see the transition to sleet. May get a half an inch to a couple of inches of that before it transitions to a little snow in central Arkansas, but certainly heavy snow over the northern part of the state. We started with a shot in Conway. That is primarily sleet, but there has been snow mixing in. So there is your winter weather advisories and warnings. Here's what radar looks like. We've got mainly snow to the north, but there is this zone through central Arkansas where we've got sleet mixing with freezing rain and even mixing with snow. This magenta colored has been primarily freezing rain this afternoon, but as colder air is working in, we're going to see a transition to sleet and then snow later on. This is one of our radar types, precipitation types, and I'm going to take you a little closer here to central Arkansas because just north of Pulaski County, getting to Faulkner County, it is sleet and snow, but here in the Little Rock area, just within the past few minutes or so, we've seen more sleet reports out of western parts of Pulaski County, and I think that's going to be the case as this colder air begins to filter into the central part of Arkansas. An upper level storm system is going to be responsible for that. So over the next couple of 3 hours, we will see freezing rain, transition to sleet, and then turn into some snow. Temperatures and wind chill values are brutal outside. 19 with a wind chill value of 9 in Harrison. In Little Rock, it's currently 30. And that's very important because any of the moisture on the roadways here in central Arkansas, especially that hasn't been treated, is going to begin to freeze up. As soon as the sun sets, there's going to be ice patches. Wind chill value of 20 in Little Rock, and it's going to get even colder than that as we head through the overnight hours tonight. 8 degrees by tomorrow morning in Fayetteville. We'll see about 18 here in Little Rock. Again, it gets even colder from there. Got more, including the timing of when this precipitation will come to an end in just a few minutes.
All right, Tom, thank you. With that forecast, we knew the roads were becoming a mess. The question today was going to be when.
THV 11's Carter Thweet is live now alongside I-630 in Little Rock.
Faith, Rolly, we are definitely getting some heavy winds and some sleet out here, and as Tom mentioned, we were also having freezing rain earlier, and today I had the chance to speak with the guys who handle the interstates, the highways, the back roads, and everything in between, and they told me that while this storm is going to be different from last month's, it could be just as dangerous, if not more, for these roads.
We did have a good 48 hours of pre-treatment here in central Arkansas.
Dave Parker with RDOT says their teams have been busy preparing Arkansas interstates and highways for winter weather. But it's not a case of deja vu. Parker says even from a roads perspective, this storm will be very different from what we saw in January.
That was a snow situation, a lot of plowing. It was gone in a matter of a day or two because of the above freezing temperatures and the sunshine, but we're going to get really, really cold Wednesday, Thursday here, so nothing's going to melt.
This tends to be the case even more on back roads and side streets, and that's where Eric Petty comes into play. He's Little Rock's Public Works Operations Manager, and they handle a lot of the city's neighborhood roads.
We have a lot of really steep hills to go in and out of. A lot of these neighborhood roads are really narrow.
Petty says they started pouring sand for traction and salt for melting Tuesday morning. Any earlier and traffic would have washed it off the road. But he says with temperatures expected to stay below freezing through Friday, it'll only do so much.
We are expecting it to have a lot of trouble melting it and getting it off the streets, especially in our hilly and shady areas. It's going to be some real dangerous driving for a couple days here.
That's exactly what Parker with RDOT told me. He says when they use sand, which they have today, it's basically a last resort. It's not going to help with melting or anything like that. It's just to try and create some sort of traction since they expect conditions to stay pretty bad for a couple of days. Reporting here in Little Rock, Carter Thweet, THV 11 News.
All right, Carter, thank you. And we can't say it enough. If you can stay off the roads, even cars with better traction can struggle with freezing rain and ice. So there's just not a lot of traction there.
No, the other worry for a lot of folks today, if that ice was going to build up enough to knock out power.
Utility companies started warning customers yesterday, and THV 11's Maya Ellison spoke to those companies today to get an update on their response plans.
Yeah, Rolling in Faith. Energy companies prepare year-round for this, like you see some preparations happening behind me. But in the midst of their preparations, there's one thing they tell me they worry the most about. It's the sight of ice on power lines and trees.
This turns into a battle. We're trying to get everybody back on as quickly as we can.
But that's no problem for Arkansas energy companies who have prepared for the incoming winter weather. This week's storm is a little different from last month's snow.
Because ice accumulates on power lines, of course, and that could cause the lines to weigh down and actually cause the lines to snap or the poles to snap,
resulting in power outages. But Rob Rodell with Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas say they've thought of every possibility, ensuring that they're ready for whatever's to come.
We make sure our right-of-ways are clear, which basically means we clean all the vegetation off the areas close to the infrastructure. Secondly, we make sure our linemen are trained on how to efficiently restore power. And then thirdly, we make sure our power plants are operating at the maximum efficiency.
Over at Entergy, their eyes are to the skies or tree limbs. The buildup of ice on trees looks something like this, posing a risk of falling onto power lines. That's why Vice President of Entergy Arkansas, Adam Efren, says their main priority, clearing the way.
We've been going to our high-risk areas, trimming out additional line sections and ensuring that we're prepped and have minimal impact from this event.
And through these doors, officials are commanding the troops. Visuals of weather graphs and cameras help them keep track of what's going on across the state.
It's an app that essentially shows all the outages for each electrical utility in the U.S. And we watch it as storms move across the country. We can kind of tell based off the impact of other utilities how they're going to impact Entergy.
But the magic happens around this table.
We're getting the last-minute data points. We're fine-tuning our plan. We're making any adjustments we need to do.
Yeah, for energy companies, with things just starting to really fall, they're playing the waiting game and really preparing during the calm before the storm. Now, for you all at home, like me, I want to stay warm, and it's easy to touch that thermostat, but they tell me to save a couple of bucks in your pocket. Make sure you set the thermostat a little above 68, check for cracks, and most of all, keep those doors closed. For THV 11 News, I'm Maya Ellison.
All right, Maya, thanks so much. And we'll keep you up to date on those power outages. So far, not a whole lot to talk about. But with a state of emergency in effect, the Arkansas National Guard is already mobilized.
That means around 140 soldiers and airmen are manning 28 winter weather response teams. Those squads will be very busy helping state police help stranded drivers. And
they have the tools to help. Each team of 5 has 2 Humvees ready to help clear the way for first responders.